Hello everyone, it's Indra Bartona here, and warm welcome to the Positivity Vibe Tribe podcast. And today's topic is how to overcome procrastination, and we're hosting with Success Minded. Today we get into the tips and strategies on overcoming procrastination, because who doesn't have a little procrastination? And we're having amazing guests that talk about this and add their tips as well. So enjoy the podcast and sending you love, light, and blessings. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Positivity Vibe Tribe Show. I'm Indra Bartona, a producer in the film and television industry, TV host, and the founder of the Positivity Vibe Tribe. Originally from the Gold Coast, Australia, lived in London for several years, now based in Los Angeles. A little bit of background on the Positivity Vibe Tribe. Well, it all started with the formation of my YouTube channel with a positive vibe lifestyle theme, and Positivity Vibe Tribe became my personal brand. Positivity Vibe Tribe Twitter Spaces is a natural evolution to bridge the gap between all social media platforms and bring them to life with conversations about living a positive lifestyle with the bonus of full engagement of all of you. Now, the main topics of PVT are abundance mindset, self-care, gratitude, mindfulness, law of attraction, meditation, affirmations, and so many more. But we'd love to get adventurous. So today's topic, of course, overcoming procrastination. So today, joined by our co-host, Stephen Caggiano. He's our NFT designer and behind-the-scenes team member extraordinaire, and also the team expert on all things crypto and AI technology. So make sure you reach out to Stephen, connect with him, follow him. He's a great account as well. All right, and we are hosting this space with Success Minded. Today is the day, of course, and we always join forces with Success Minded's community. Our mission of supporting a growing community is perfectly aligned, as well as the essence of our content. He has grown his community to over 600,000 members by writing unique content and motivating people. He's a lifelong learner and always looking to grow himself mentally, physically, and intellectually. While he grows, he makes sure to bring his community on path with him. So let's get going on this conversation of how to overcome procrastination. Success Minded, love your opening thoughts on this topic.
Procrastination is something that I've struggled with for a long time in my life. I remember back in high school, I used to skip projects until the very last day before submitting them, and doing the whole assignments throughout high school, throughout college, in that last night before the submission. I also remember procrastinating on every bit of life. Like, I used to be the fat kid in the class because I used to procrastinate on working out. I knew I needed to work out, but I just couldn't bring myself together. I would push it to the other day. During the day, I would push it to the next hour, then to the next hour, and then it would be dinner time. I won't know where the time had gone, right? And then I would push it to the next day, and then the same cycle would repeat again. I would never have worked out. I was risking I was very overweight at that time, and I was also very late in every aspect of my life. But overcoming procrastination has been a very long and tedious journey for me, where I initially did not my body did not want to do it, because it is kind of a nature that it's a habit that forms when you're chronically procrastinating. It becomes a habit of yours, and for me to break that habit, it was a very tedious, very difficult process. So, but I was eventually able to do it. And I believe a lot of people here today are here because they struggle with procrastination as well. And this is a discussion I believe that we need to have, because with so many people facing the same problem and not fulfilling their full potential and not taking action, that is becoming a real problem. So this space is just going to be a journey, the lessons we learn throughout our journey. I know Indra does not procrastinate at all. She does so much. She does so many things during the day, and I guess this space is just gonna be us sharing our journeys of how we overcame this problem, this vice of procrastination, how we overcame this problem. And I hope this inspires someone to take actions to fix their procrastination habit as well. So those are my opening remarks. What do you have to say, Indra?
That was an incredible share that you had the self-awareness, first of all, because I think that's the thing that happens with procrastination. And I was thinking back to a time when I was a teenager, and I was just look, everything would be a form of procrastination. And I think I was trying to think about, well, why was I like that? Well, I know for me, it was a self-confidence issue, just not sure how to go about things. And the thing that really helped me was when I actually, I was procrastinating on so many things, whether it was homework, on tidying up my room, whatever the thing was, it was just this constant, thing. And it didn't even help when I would sort of write a list, because at that time my desk was so messy, I would then lose the list. But what brought it to my awareness was I was journaling, right, from around 12, and I think I was closer to 15 or 16 when this was sort of, things would just start to pile up, and you start to feel overwhelmed emotionally. And my mother came in one day and she said, she said, there's something, why are you getting so stressed? And I said, well, I'm behind. I haven't done this. I've got this to do. I've got to do this, XYZ. And she said, well, why don't you just confront yourself, sit down with you and a friend, your journal, and prompt yourself with the question of, why am I putting things off? Why is there always a delay? Why am I procrastinating? She said, try different, prompts, journaling prompts. And that's where it really came to my awareness. And I would say that this continued, the struggle was sort of, that was real. And it took me over a year, maybe 2 years, to really kind of fine tune and figure this out. And it's only been like, now I feel like I have this thing, it's closer to being under control, but there are still moments. And this is where the human condition is really where we get into these habits, right? So, but the important thing about procrastination is we don't want anything in our lifetime to hold us back. And procrastination is the thing. It's the weakness. It's the habit that can hold us back. I just want to shout out to some dear friends that have joined us. Of course, Sarah is one of our co-hosts. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this in a moment. Shout out to Professor Thuli Madonacella. Thank you so much for joining the space, and thank you for sharing it out. Of course, Roseanne is in the house. Love having your energy here and appreciate you as well. Okay, so Success Minded, any thoughts on some of the things I just shared?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing a story. And I think it brings something into my memory with something that Mel Robbins said. right? Procrastination is not something that, people equate it to laziness, but it's something that's not laziness per se, because it's just a way for our body, our mind to just relieve some stress. Okay. Let's say you have a very important project coming up, a work project that's coming up. Instead of focusing on that, your brain tries to take a shortcut, right? It wants to do something easy. And whatever the most easy thing is in front of it, it does that. For example, it might be scrolling through TikTok. It might even be, if your phone is not there, it might even be something like organize the bookshelf, because compared to that important project, the what would be considered hard, during a day, because most people don't actually enjoy cleaning exercises at that moment, because the work project is so hard. The cleaning up the closet, organizing a bookshelf would seem easy, and your brain would want to do that, and you will actually do it, right? It's how our brain works. It's how our whole psyche is. It just wants to do the most easy thing. It wants to relieve that stress. And over time, when you're, constantly relieving that stress, running away from your most important things, uh, the thing that you're supposed to do right now, it becomes a habit. So procrastination is, for most people, it does not start out as a habit, but it then becomes a habit, and a facet of their personality. Then that's when people start calling them lazy. They're not lazy. They're just, well, they just train their brain subconsciously in a way that's not very productive. So the first thing to understand while you're combating this habit of procrastination is probably understanding procrastination itself. You have to realize that it's just your brain trying to take a break. How do you break that habit? Well, once you realize what that habit is, once you realize that you are, your body is accustomed to this, and you're doing this out of habit, you're skipping things and scrolling TikTok, scrolling Reels, scrolling YouTube, or doing something else, right? Watching television, or reading a book, because you're running away from a hard thing. It brings things into perspective for you. Then what you can do is, once you realize this, once you are aware of this, you can start by counting from 5 to 1. Why do you do this? Just to break that habit, because the what you would have done otherwise, even if you would have realized that why you are doing this, you would have just gone back to your procrastination routine, which is, whatever your mechanism is, whether it's picking up your phone, or going to the bathroom, or whatever. You would have just continued it, but you're not breaking the habit. You're counting from 5 to 1. Then you assess, how important is this project, how important is it for you to do that project right now, or do that work, do that whatever it is right now. If it's really important, or if you think that if you don't start now, you're never going to finish, then actually take action. And here's the crazy part, right? 80% of the people that start a project, or start anything for that matter, actually end up finishing it. 80% of the people. And I believe 80% of the people here, maybe 100% of the people here, because you all are growth-minded people here. I believe if you're listening to this space right now, you are growth-minded people. I believe if you can just take up that action, take up that first step, that baby step, you will be able to finish it. I'll share my own story here. I used to dread working out, right? I worked out for some time, in my middle school years, and I hated every bit of it. It was physical work. It was like lifting weights, doing these, at that time it seemed like weird movements, and I did not want to do it. It seemed like too much of work. I just wanted to, lay down, watch TV, watch cartoons, whatever. But it was during the late years of my high school that I realized, no, enough is enough, right? And instead of me thinking of working out, coming after school, coming to work, coming home and thinking of working out and never doing so. The moment I would think of working out, I would do something. I would jump into place. I would, even if I couldn't do push-ups at that time, I would try to do push-ups. Right? I would just lay there and try to push myself up. Do anything. And as soon as that, because it's hot here, you do any sort of physical exercise, you sweat. The moment that first drops of sweat come in, the moment you get a bit heated up, I can then go on and do 15, 20 different exercises in one go. And that's what I did, right? The moment I would think of exercising, I would do just something. Just something. It was jumping in a place and maybe just walking up and down inside my own room. Like, just do something. And just beginning that, just taking that baby step allowed me to then finish my whole workout routine, which I developed later, in my workout regime, in a full workout. I would end up finishing that whole workout. So that is a great step that you can take to eliminate procrastination, to overcome procrastination in the first place. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Indra.
Yeah, that was a great story about real life and working out because okay, as you mentioned, also it's something that, the body is fighting and it's a habit. And yeah, it's like taking small steps, like you said, just trying it, starting something small. So really great additions there. I wanted to throw over to our co-host team. Let's about some thoughts. Let's start with Stephen. What are your thoughts on this topic of procrastination?
Sure. So out of the gate, I'm 100% in agreement with success minded. I'm also a Mel Robbins maxi, and for the tribe, Mel Robbins is to procrastination what Brene Brown is to shame. So she's studied it, she's picked it apart, and she's decompartmentalized it to make it a little bit easier to deal with in bite-sized portions. And some of the things she addressed, number one, she became famous for her countdown. She equated that to NASA. She said she was sitting in bed and she knew she wasn't going to get up, but she decided to give herself a countdown from 5 to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and cultivated the habit of getting up and moving when she got to 1. And he expanded upon this. It became somewhat famous for disrupting her own habit of procrastination. So she studied it, and some of the things she came up with, procrastination is caused by stress from personal issues right out of the gate. The stress makes it difficult to focus on work, and the brain resists doing tasks that cause more stress. So the idea is to minimize the stress of the activity by gating it or limiting it. And she said when she's working with clients now, she'll ask them to start, but only do 5 minutes of work, no more. Even if you're motivated, stop at 5 minutes. And she said she asked for this limitation because she wants to create a new habit of starting. The habit that needs to be broken is the one of getting in motion, from dead stop to being in motion. And that was that I was one with that. And I think that's that's my contribution to today. Maybe Sarah can elaborate.
Thanks so much, Stephen. So many great points there. Sarah, love to hear your thoughts on this idea of and this concept of and struggle of procrastination. And as a business person, I know that you have to be very efficient. So over to you for your thoughts.
Well, I never procrastinate with work because it's important to me. I don't procrastinate with things with my family, but tedious things, housework, I need to, I don't know, organize my cabinets. I need to, clean up my storage areas, those things, yeah, I put on the back burner. I never procrastinate anything that's important or important to me, but I'm okay with doing it with things that I find tedious. Um, I don't think that it's simply a matter of putting off things that you don't like. I think it's putting off things that aren't really important. If you're putting off things that are important, then I think that's an issue. But if it's just things that you could live without doing, then yeah, I save it for a rainy day, I say.
Hey, thank you for sharing your philosophy on this. So, family first and work first, and then all the rest, depending on how important it is.
Exactly.
I like this.
Exactly. I mean, I have a whole list. I mean, we all do. I think that what helps me is I put everything that I need to do on a list. My lists are famous. I think that if you put everything that needs to be done, and I'm not talking about things that need to be done today. I'm talking about things that maybe need to be done in 6 months. I put everything on a list, and I feel better. I feel less stress when I can see it all in one place. And then I tackle my list when I have free time. In fact, we just completed a home project that has been sitting on that list for about, I would say, 8 months. It wasn't important, but we found the time and we did it. And it was such an accomplishment to cross that off. So lists, I think, are very important. Organization is very important for people that are procrastinators.
Hey, you just nailed it. When you were describing before your process, the word organization really came up for me with you, and you just nailed it then. I love the concept of lists. Stephen, you have your hand up. Over to you.
Sure. So there it is again, the most common single practice of people getting stuff done over the last year plus in the Positivity Vibe Tribe has been write stuff down, make a list. That has been the most common single piece of advice from those who are succeeding at anything. Write it down. High five, Sarah.
There it is. Absolutely. Writing it down. I love this because it is, well, it's one of my secrets as well. Because so many people say, how are you doing all these things? You also have a job, you're running spaces, you're doing all these things. And I do have lists, and I actually prioritize the list. So I go down and I put them in a Excel spreadsheet, and I know, okay, this is maybe going a little bit too far, but call it a influence from my producer / project manager experience. And then the ratings could change depending on what they are. On any day, at any time, different things can move around in the list. So they're just some of my things, but really love that share. Sarah, back over to you.
I do it the old-fashioned way. I bought one of those, during school supply season, you can get those 5 subject notebooks. And I bought one of those, and I bought a bunch of cute pens, and I sit down and I organize it by home, things that I need to do for my family. I have my birthday present and Christmas lists as well that I write down when my kids say, "Oh, I really like that." I'm like, birthday and Christmas, there we go. Things like that. And I have it all in one place in my handy dandy notebook. I can't typically take an Excel spreadsheet with me when I'm out and about, but I can take my notebook when I'm, say, at Costco, and I can flip through and be like, oh, I do need fertilizer because I need to fertilize my plants. Or I do need, this because, my son wants it for Christmas. So things like that. And it helps lead a stress-free life,
Absolutely. And you mentioned that it's sort of a experience / ritual because you're using different colored pens and you're making it interesting for yourself. And also, almost subconsciously, with the different colors, you're putting priorities maybe together with all of that. So it makes an experience. And I do like the handwritten for like short lists for the day of, okay, these are the really important things. But I am a little bit married to my Excel spreadsheet because it can move anytime up and down with the numbering process. Okay, so back over to you, Success Minded, for some more thoughts on this topic of procrastination.
Yeah, hearing you guys, I picked up one thing that was, that is also very important, is prioritization. Because at the end of the day, we only really need to do what's important to us, both in the short term and the long term. We, as our brains do not understand the difference between what's important for us and what's not. And we sometimes prioritize things that are not very important. Like, let's say, going to a birthday party of your third cousin. Maybe it's important in some circumstances where you need to, mend family ties, sure, but most times maybe it's not so important to go to that, distant relative's birthday party. Or sometimes we always also prioritize, because I've been guilty of this, is finishing up that movie that you've been always wanting to finish. Maybe that's not important. I've done this a lot of times where I would just put some time away to finish a movie or something, and then I would realize, oh, what did I achieve watching an Iron Man movie? Well, nothing really. But that's just a flaw of the brain. You have to sometimes reassess yourself, and lists are a great way to do this. Lists are awesome at prioritizing, because you're writing it down. You're seeing it for yourself. What's important and what's not. And once you put it down on a list, when you put it out, schedule a timetable, whatever you want to call it for yourself. At the end of the day, it's all about getting things done, and it's about getting the right things done. The list help a lot in that. But I also believe that it's also a way to trick our brain, because the brain wants to trick you. Your brain is designed in a way that it wants to trick you into doing the easy thing, whether it's picking up your phone, checking Twitter, checking WhatsApp, or it's just calling your friend maybe to have a chit chat, or picking up a movie. Whatever is easy for the brain at that moment, it wants to do that. It wants to go away from the hard things, like organizing your cupboard, like getting to write that book that you've been always wanting to write, or starting that business that you've always wanted to start. Your brain always wants you to trick you into doing what's easy. If you want to lose weight, the hard thing to do, the important thing to do, is cut down on what's making you fat, the foods that are making you fat, and double down on things like exercise and eating the right things in the right quantity. But your brain wants you to take a shortcut. It wants you to eat that cupcake. It wants you to eat that sugar-rich, sweetie snacks. The brain is designed in that way. Lists are a great way to trick the brain into not doing this, because then you realize what the tricks of the brain are, right? What your brain is trying to do, and you stick to whatever is in your list, and you do not let your own brain manipulate you. Also, the process I mentioned above, where you start from 5, count from 5 to 1, you're basically giving yourself some time to be aware of what your brain is trying to do. The moment you realize that, okay, I should have been writing something right now, and here I am scrolling through TikTok, you can just start that reverse countdown process and realize, oh, this is what my brain is making me do. This is what is easy for me at this moment. That's why my brain wants me to do this. So in that moment, you're also tricking your brain into, doing the hard thing, which it did not want to do. If you listen to the brain all the time, what's going to happen is it's going to make you do the easy things all the time over and over again. And then you're going to have a hard life. As the saying goes, if you do the easy things, you're going to have a hard life. If you do the hard things now, you're going to have an easy life down the road. How much of that is true? I don't know, because if you do the hard things, things are going to be relatively easy down the road, but it's still better than having a really hard life down the road if you do the easy things right now. So, just some thoughts there about what has been discussed here. But another thing I also wanted to bring light to is actually eliminating distractions. This is what I've struggled with a lot of times, where I would jump into doing something, and I would start doing it, or be in the process of starting to do it, and then there would be notification on my phone, and I would have a DM from a friend, and I get to answering the DM, but then I'm just stuck inside the phone. I'm just stuck in the world of the phone, and I'm checking someone's stories, and then I'm scrolling someone's timeline, and then I'm watching YouTube shorts, and I forget that I actually sat down to do something, right, to write something, or I actually picked up the phone to, start a workout video so that I can work out on myself. And I just, get lost in that work. What helps me in those circumstances is just not not having the trigger around me in the first place. If you have that trigger, you're always going to lean towards procrastinating. It's just giving your brain and its this manipulations a greater chance of manipulating you. And you don't want to do that. You want to overcome your brain. You want to do the things that are hard. And the best way to do it, I believe, is just to eliminate the distractions altogether. That's why now when I work out, I don't actually have my phone near me. I have it, on inside my room. I have it on silent on the other side of the room, face down, so that I don't get any notifications. Sure, sometimes it's important. Sometimes let's say I know a work message might come up, and that's very important. Sure, in that case, I might have it on and facing me, but usually I have my phone turned off when I'm working out. I don't even trust these workout videos anymore, because I know when I'm watching them, there's going to be notification. I'm just going to be stuck in the phone. So I just completely remove the distraction, remove the trigger from my session altogether. So, removing distractions also helps a lot in overcoming procrastination. What do you think is procrastination? So what are your thoughts on that, Indra? I'd love to hear you.
Yeah, look, you really nailed that point. So many times, if we get distracted, it's pretty much, it can be game over, or can waste so much time. And it really made me think about, there's different types of procrastination that we have, and we're all sort of unique, and we could all sort of shift between the different types of procrastination when we do have those moments. I mean, one thing that I remember that, and occasionally it seeps in, it's insidious, right? is being concerned about doing the thing, whatever it is, 100% to the best of your ability. And that's that piece of us that wants to perfect everything, the perfectionism. So we sort of think, well, I'm just going to do a little bit more research on the thing, or I'm going to do this, or maybe I'll attack that tomorrow, or a little bit later in the day. And it always does happen, even when I have it on a list and things. Okay, but I should have really been attacking that at 9 a.m., not 3 hours later. What was the delay about? I think it's about sometimes we put these expectations on ourselves, and there's this fear of not doing it correctly or right, when we could have just gone ahead and attempted it, and the result would have been fantastic. But sometimes we can talk ourselves out of it. So that's a little bit of self-talk, right? That's going on sometimes. Our inner self-talk, just to be aware of. And sometimes I've discovered this, it doesn't happen a lot because I'm getting very, very disciplined to my list. And anybody that knows me in my inner circle knows that if I say I'm going to go off and do something, I'm doing it. It's happening. But there are sometimes these mini delays that I have. And I'm not talking about never doing it, but it could be an hour, it could be 20 minutes, it could be something. And I feel that it's because we put these expectations on ourselves. And so try to be perfect the first time around, when it is actually a process. It's a learning process for us all. And sometimes by doing, we do learn. And I'm finding that out more and more every single day. And then sometimes it's, I was just thinking, like, there's so many different things. And I feel like when I was like a teenager, I was dreaming too much and not doing. And this can be another thing is, okay, so look, this is the secret. I love the secret. Okay. I love the philosophy behind that. But a lot of people aren't taking the actions. So yes, we have to have a vision. Yes, it's important to dream about it, to daydream about it, to think about it, to visualize it, to even create a vision board. But without actually taking the action and planning out the steps that are required for your goals, for your dreams, there's going to be a delay. And that's called procrastination. So being a dreamer is a great thing, but we always have to back this up with plans, with timelines, with goals, with small actionable steps that we can keep moving forward on. So that was something that I was reflecting on, that was my biggest thing that was holding me back when I was a teenager. And I do remember about journaling about that. So journaling could be a way that you can actually have a conversation with yourself about this and ignite some things that run deep, because we can also fall back into some of those habits, okay? And that's the beauty of discovering, okay, well, what is going on? Why am I doing this? And journaling can really help you out like that. It's like having a best friend with yourself 24/7. So, do that. But see if you can identify. There might be something behind the reason why. And usually it's a mindset thing, or it's something that's going on with you internally. Maybe it's even emotional. Maybe by taking this action, you're concerned about a big change in your life, for the good, even sometimes for the better. Change is something that we internally struggle with, and we are constantly fighting with ourselves internally, because it's not something that's always exciting or fun that we think about. We think about changes. No, everything was great. I had everything under control. So maybe there's some emotional things behind the reasons of maybe even fearing the change, maybe being resistant towards it. So, there could be some other deeper levels that it's good for us to just think about, identify, journal about, talk to a friend, talk to somebody that you're comfortable with, that you've noticed this piece about yourself. But always use patience and kindness if you think it's an emotional thing with yourself, or it could be a big risk that maybe you have to take in order with this change and in order to move forward with this action. So there may be substantial reasons why you have concerns about this. So always just give yourself that grace, if it is something along those lines, because those actions are usually significant, even though they may seem small, but you're moving in a new direction. So there is that type of level of procrastination that I was thinking about as well. So I'd love to welcome Roseanne. And what are your thoughts on this topic?
Hey guys, as always, I love the topic and all the points that you all made, especially Indra about the secret and taking action, because that is so huge. A lot of people miss that part where they think, well, I'm going to visualize something and I feel it, but it's not happening. And it's not happening because we're not taking the action. But I wanted to share my experience with procrastination because I never realized that I was a procrastinator until changes in my life. So I had always worked for my entire adult life in a really high paced industry. And I was scheduled the entire day, morning until nighttime. And then when I started working from home, I started realizing that I was a procrastinator because I didn't have that schedule. And it looked like I just had so much time and I wasn't getting anything done at all. So, to everybody's point, making a schedule definitely helps. And what I did was I made up my own rules. One of them is a one touch rule for certain things, like mail that comes in. As soon as it comes in, I just open it and do what I need to do with it. And I made a schedule for myself to work on the things that are the hardest. And in the morning, as soon as I wake up, and that's for a reason, it builds momentum for the day. So as soon as I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is write in my gratitude journal. I'll write my affirmations and then I get on the treadmill. First thing I do, 5 a.m., I'm on the treadmill. And then after that, I take care of my kids. But all of that is out of the way and it makes me feel accomplished. And I have a list of everything that I need to do throughout the day and I block my time. And that keeps me in line with everything that I need to do. I get everything done. And like you said, you prioritize what you need to prioritize, like working out, your health, working, children, and then you make time for all those small things. And I also want to say it's important to set boundaries. We sometimes take on a little too much than we need to. I know, for example, with my kids, I'm volunteering for literally everything since they were in preschool. I'll be on the PTA and do all these things. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I really need to set boundaries and learn to say no. And I did that. And all those changes completely changed my life. So I just wanted to share what helped me. And sometimes we don't realize things about ourselves until we actually have a change in our life. So for me, it was going from one business to another and going from something very structured to something very unstructured and reflecting on it and saying, okay, let me take a step back. What is going on? Why am I not reaching my goals? Why am I, like you guys said, staying on the phone for too long, scrolling so much? And for me, I just had so much free time and I felt like, well, I could do it later. I have all the time in the world, but I wasn't accomplishing what I need to accomplish. And you start realizing I was a perfectionist. I needed everything to be perfect before I would take action. But without reflection, you can't see these things about yourself. You need to take a step back. And if it's through journaling or just taking that time to sit and say what's going on and then start taking action. And the first action that I took, it did not work for me. It doesn't mean that as soon as you do it, everything is going to come together. It doesn't work like that. So my first schedule that I made, it didn't work for me. I was doing things at a time that wasn't great and I kept having to play with it. And once I did that, I got down to the routine and it's great. And there are times that if I don't stick to my schedule long enough, I will procrastinate. So it's important, I'm not a superhero. Those are all tools that we need in order to get to where we want to go.
Oh, so many fabulous points that you just added, Roseanne. And thank you for sharing your story. I really feel like through examples that we share in this space, in this community, that's really helpful because it helps others to reflect and identify, oh, I do that. oh my gosh, this happens to me all the time because there's these little things. But the action piece that you were talking about, thank you for also providing a resolution to that. The example of now you have this one touch, and that's the easiest thing. Look, with mail is one thing that can just pile up, right? You could just grab it, put it in a pile, and there's bills, there's good stuff in there. There could be checks even. And I always this is a little thing that I have is I always motivate myself. And it's a little bit similar to your one touch rule, but it just made me kind of giggle because I thought I always play it in my head. There could be a check in there, check in the mail. So just open everything, just go through it all. And that's my little trick with, okay, I'm going to touch all the mail. I'm going to open it. I'm going to deal with whatever it is. Bills, checks, everything, nice letters, surprise. Who knows? There could be a surprise in there. Good, bad, the ugly, but it is best for us to get that done and then move on with our day. And the thing is that that sparked for me when you were sharing is that there can be so many good things that can come out of actually taking action and not procrastinating. Whereas if you think about the flip side, well, there's a big downside to not attending to what we need to do, right? And if you think about that, it's almost like a motivational piece. Well, okay, there's negative impacts, right? If I don't do these things. I mean, even just reflecting, right? Earlier in the discussion, I was mentioning as a teenager that it used to stress me out by not doing the things that I should be doing. So there's that added level of stress, of anxiety, of even worrying. Okay, so we're going to start worrying about, well, why haven't I done that? When am I going to do that? Instead of taking the action, instead of completing that, ticking it off your list, which is always a huge relief. I mean, I often feel like, oh, even if there's something that I'm doing and it's not simple, I'm not just going to do it in one sitting. There's various different aspects of it. So I break it down so it's not overwhelming, because a lot of the time we can overwhelm ourselves getting back to the negative aspects, right? So if we break this down, this big task, and okay, for example, working on one of the YouTube shows, well, there's so many different moving parts to this. If I and the team were just going to sit down and we're just going to do this whole thing right now, that's really stressful. But to break it up into bite-sized pieces and tasks that can be completed easily and quickly and allocated a time, okay, well, I'm going to focus this hour or two on this piece and then another piece. And that is where we can really get value for ourselves and we can feel good about moving forward on things. And the other thing which I was thinking about is when we don't get things done, when we're not completing tasks, it actually can reflect on us where we're not going to feel that good about ourselves. And that's not good, right? Because then we don't have the confidence to complete the task, particularly if it's a big one. So some of those things just kind of sparked ideas about this area and about the reasons why we should feel motivated to complete tasks, goals, dreams, all these things in our life. So many things. Success Minded, what are your thoughts on this?
And so many great points you shared there, and such a interesting story that you share. I believe this is the beauty of spaces, and I repeat myself in every space, but I just love hearing these stories where people come up and share their life stories, and it inspires people, right? It inspires them to see that whatever I'm going through, someone else on a speaker panel there is going through the same thing, and maybe I can learn something from their story and utilize it in my life. So that is very powerful, and again, agreeing with Indra, the most important aspect that you shared is that I really like was probably starting with the hard stuff right in the beginning. You shared about Maya, but it reminds me of a story that I learned, not a story, but an aspect of Indian culture. I learned growing up. It's not carried out today, but back in the day, in ancient times where we used to have schools, they were called tools. Okay. The term tool is what in English became school. So in tools, the teachers, it will be like a boarding school where students would live alongside the teacher, and they would have to, do their own things, become independent in life. And the first thing they needed to do in the very beginning was the hard stuff. Wake up, fetch water, clean the whole surroundings of the school, of your boarding area, of your, your living area. You do the gardening first stuff, do everything, cleaning, carrying water, cooking breakfast. You do the very hard stuff, very physically heavy stuff right in the beginning, because that, starting off the day with the hard stuff actually makes it easy, for you to do the rest of the stuff, because you're creating that momentum for stuff. When you're waking up, we wake up with a kind of, when you're sleeping, you're basically resting. You're doing nothing. Your body is in a full state of rest, and it's a different state the body is in. The moment you wake up, it's like a jerk. Like it's the we hear it's a shock right in the very morning. It's we wake up. It's shock for the body, and if you can continue that shock by doing something hard, it secretes adrenaline in your brain, in your body, which kind of makes it even more alert than you were when you woke up. And because you create that level of awareness, then it becomes really easy. It becomes relatively easy for you to do the next things, because then your willpower is already taken care of. The most willpower it takes to do anything during the day is probably waking up and brushing your teeth in the very morning. Or in the winters, just getting out those bed sheets and actually doing things. That's the most willpower you need during the day. And if you, on top of that, if you just do some physical activity, some very hard grueling physical activity, the rest of the day, the willpower is already taken care of. You just need to take action, take those baby steps, like I said in the very beginning. And taking those baby steps, anything later in the day becomes very easy. And then, as I said, once you take those baby steps, you can finish it. 80% of the people who start something finish it, and that's just a fact. Also, I would highlight another fact. This is probably one of the biggest spaces we've hosted in a Positivity Vibe Tribe. So I would like to thank every one of you who have come to this space to listen. And it shows that you are committed to your growth mindset. You are here to learn how to overcome your procrastination so that you can take your growth to the next level, so that you can take your life to the next level. And that speaks a lot. So pat yourself on the back. You did a great job coming here, learning these tips about procrastination. I hope you're learning something right now, and I hope you get to learn something as the discussion continues. And also, I would love to thank some of our friends who recently joined. Bunsen and Beaker, thank you so much for coming to the space and gracing us with your presence. And also, my dear friend, Seth said, thank you so much for coming here and taking the time out of your busy day. I know you're busy, doing stuff. So thank you so much for coming here and, just making your presence felt. But coming back to the topic, I love what you said, Roseanne, and also about, setting boundaries. We overcommit ourselves so much, so that, when we make a commitment, we treat it as a priority when it might not have been a priority. It might be a menial task, like just showing up somewhere. But because we committed to it, now we have to honor our commitment. Sometimes that showing up somewhere does not equate to anything growth-wise to our life. And we're just wasting our time. In fact, we might be negatively impacting our growth, negatively impacting our day that day, just by showing up or honoring that commitment. in those circumstances, we have to understand, right? Maybe it's not the best thing to do. Maybe it's not wise to say yes to everything. Maybe it's okay to set some boundaries. And it is. We did a space on boundaries a few weeks ago. And, we have to come to an understanding that it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to, honor your peace, your mental health, your whole mental well-being. We take it for granted for so many people. We take it for granted that we would honor every commitment, we would do everything, we would just say yes to everything, and we would still have our mental peace. That's not how it works. You have to take care of your mental well-being, otherwise it's gonna get disturbed. It's gonna get well it's gonna deteriorate. I think that's one reason why we have such a mental health crisis right now, where it's so easy to commit to things. It's so easy to communicate with people, and that communication, because of the human to human connection, it brings a lot of commitment with it. I'm not against it. That's how human beings are, and that's a good thing if you have a limited amount of people that you meet during the day, or a limited amount of communication you do during the day. But because there is so much communication happening throughout our day, if it's not between people, it's between companies and people. And some brands, they are making you commit to their intentions, like their profiting intentions. So we're constantly committing ourselves to things that may not even actually impact our growth, contribute to our growth. So in that case, it's very important that you understand the importance of boundaries. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Roseanne. And loved what you said. Back to you, Indra.
So many great points. And just building off what Roseanne and Success Minded, what you've both been bringing in these wonderful points, it made me think about having balance and productivity in our life. This balancing piece, right? That so often, if we are not nurturing ourselves, if we're not taking care of ourselves, then it's easy to sort of feel like this whole balance thing is really out of control. And that's when it's the easiest for us to maybe overlook some really important tasks that we need to do and to procrastinate because maybe we're not feeling the best. Like we haven't eaten enough. We haven't hydrated. I mean, these are just some basic things. We haven't slept enough because we've been working ourselves up, procrastinating. It's almost like there's a motivational piece as well. So the balance, bringing that balance back in with making sure that you're taking care of yourself, self-care aspect is really, really important, and balancing out our life, doing the best that we can. And it's not always possible. There are times when we have deadlines, and trying to balance and manage all of these aspects, we do kind of give ourselves, we give ourselves a hard time, and we do try to meet all those things, but that's when something has to suffer, right? And this piece of coming back to balance, finding that balance is really the key, and for some people, it might be having intentional breaks during the day. And for others, it might be, okay, 6 o'clock, no social media, I'm done, no nothing, no phone calls, no text messages, no nothing, no, everything is, I'm not scrolling, I'm not doing anything, I'm not working, I'm not checking emails. Find what works for you, because we're sharing a lot of different things in this space, in this discussion, but you are unique. So something is going to resonate with you, or maybe try a couple of different things. Like try certain aspects where I'm going to work for an hour on this or 30 minutes, and then I'm going to shift over to something else. So just be flexible. And that comes down to, it falls under the time management kind of principle idea as well. If time management is something that you feel is going to work for you, then schedule some breaks in your day. Schedule the time that you're going to focus on a certain activity. It can be really a great thing. One thing that I also love to do also is I like to look at the big picture. And I have one of those whiteboards with every day marked on it, Monday to Friday, and some overall things. Like, for example, today is a space day, where we're having this show. It's a show day. So that's marked in there. And then I also give myself enough time to prepare for this as well. So you could look at the big picture, and sometimes doing those sorts of activities where you can step back and sort of plan your overall week in a way of, these are some of the regular things that I have there, and not to get too overwhelmed with the little details, but these are some of the big pieces that I have to do each week. And then have other lists that you can actually go into the detail. But sometimes it's very kind of, I guess the thing for me, it's comforting to look at those things and know that this is my week ahead in the big picture of things. So Roseanne, love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that we've been sharing again.
Well, what you just said was huge, both you and Success Minded, because balance is really important. And earlier, someone had said, I think it was Sarah, had said, if it's important to you, then, you should be getting it done. But what's interesting, and going back to the self-care, and Joe, what you spoke about, is that a lot of times we don't care for ourselves the way that we should. So what we start doing is saying yes to everything and then not having any time for yourself. So your schedule, especially if you don't have a schedule, if you're saying yes to a school, if you're saying yes, I'm going to come to that third party's cousin, right? Like Success Minded said, and you're saying, hey, yeah, I'll take that call. And you're constantly trying to do for others and you're not taking care of yourself. Well, guess what? You're not going to go to the gym. You're not going to take care of yourself. You're not going to reflect. You're not going to do your journaling. You're not going to do anything that gives you what you need because you're busy taking care of everyone else. And what happens is it looks like procrastination. It does sometimes. And it's not always procrastination because you're just pushing aside your things. So you think, well, I'm lazy right now, but it's not. The truth of the matter is when you're pushing yourself to other people to do things for other people and you're staying up till 1 a.m., well, guess what? I can't wake up at 5 and get on that treadmill. Have I done it before? Sure, I have. But over time, as time goes on, it makes it difficult. So having that schedule is so important. And it's funny because my husband says to me, I don't want to live my life that way. I don't want to be on a schedule. I don't want to know exactly, what time I'm doing everything. But for me, and he started understanding it's not about that. It's making sure you're carving out things that are important, and yourself should be that as well. It shouldn't just be about work and all the other responsibilities. Carve out time for yourself. Do the hard things first because you will put it off, but definitely learn to say no, and people won't like it. And we learn that that's okay. And, do things for yourself as well. Make yourself an important part of your life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, so many great points, and the important part of your life. Wow, resonated again, touching base with what Sarah said and Success Minded and Stephen. We've all been talking about these important things, and to be able to prioritize, I think that's something that we can often struggle with, putting things in priority, and especially ourselves. It's been a theme that has been coming through today in the discussion of sometimes not being able to put ourselves in this priority position, right? Putting the things that we need for ourselves in order to be able to perform at a great level, to feel good, work-wise, to be sociable, all these things emotionally feel great. This is part of us being aware and having the awareness. And sometimes you've got to really give yourself those breaks, give yourself that time for that self-care, because that helps you to connect with yourself. If we're not connected to ourselves, and we're in this, and you've probably heard me say this many times before, robot mode. We're just going about as little robots, completing things and not being able to connect deeply, then we are not able to have self-awareness. And it's difficult to figure out, well, what is going on in my life? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I not achieving tasks and goals and completing things in my life? Why is the mail piling up over there and I'm hiding it? I have a new hiding space. I mean, all these things that we can create and do, and we've all done them, before, different versions of them. But that's the thing. It's we get very creative when we are masking something else, that's going on in our life. Success Minded, back over to you for some thoughts.
Yeah, loving this discussion so far and loving what you guys have been sharing. And I just want to bring another point into this is, we talked about setting boundaries. I also want to talk about setting deadlines, because a good way to set boundaries, in my experience, has been actually to set deadlines. What I mean by that is, once I have a deadline, once I set and let's say an artificial deadline for something that does not have a deadline. Let's say I want to write an article. I set a deadline for it. Okay, I want it done by 2 days later, right? Day after yesterday, a day after tomorrow. And what it allows me to do is that eliminate all the distractions, first of all, to enable me to complete that goal, first of all, but it also enables me to say no to all the invitations, all the commitments that show up in my way. Because I know if I commit to those, I won't be able to finish that article by day after tomorrow. So, it makes you not feel guilty for saying no to certain things, right? Because then you can see the progress meter. The reason we commit to so many social events, so many distractions, is because we cannot see our progress meter go up in real time. But if you have something like, I have a blog, and I kind of now measure my progress by how many blog posts I put in there during a month. And it is somewhat of a progress meter for me, because it enables me to see how productive I've been throughout my week. And when I see that I have put in my quota of my aim for each week is to put 2 articles in there. And when I've put in 2 articles or more, or let's say 4 articles or 5 articles, I know I've been really productive. But the weeks where I've only been able to put in 1 article or no articles, then I know I have made some mistakes and I need to rectify them. But what I'm trying to say is, my blog serves as my progress meter, because I now have created my whole systems around writing a blog post. I have dedicated writing times, and those dictate the rest of my schedule. And those dictate, because writing is probably one of the hardest things for me to do right now. It is a very mentally consuming task. I'm not a proficient enough writer to spur out blog articles just like that. It is a thing that still requires research and a lot of mental effort for me. So it is very hard. Once I do that hard thing, everything after that during the day for me becomes sort of an easy thing to do. If it doesn't require that amount of mental effort, it becomes an easy thing to do. It's just mindlessly moving my hands around, mindlessly walking there. It's things like that. It becomes things like that. So my blog now serves as my measure of productivity. The amount of writing that I've done dictates the amount of actual work outside writing I have done. Sometimes because I miss out on my blog, I actually don't end up creating content for my Twitter account, which happened just today, where I posted 1 hour later than I usually post. But those things happen. And it's also really important to understand that you're not always going to win this procrastination battle. Sometimes you're going to lose and procrastination will win. That's okay. The journey to progress is not always a straight line. we want it to be a straight line, sure. And in the long term, it will seem like a straight line. But in the day to day, there's always going to be wins and there's always going to be losses. Sometimes you're going to procrastinate on something that you need to do, you need to do, but you just couldn't make the time because there's only 24 hours in a day. And out of the 24 hours, you need to sleep for 8 hours. You need to eat and take care of yourself for the next 3 or 4 hours, and you only have a certain amount of time left, out of which some of it is always going to be taken up by feeling sleepy. Some of it is going to be taken up by feeling tired, and that's okay. You have to realize that, and you have to be kind to yourself, right? It's easy to dismiss your feelings in that moment, and it's easy to be angry and frustrated at yourself. Now, why am I not being productive? And now I should be able to do this. That's not how it is. You have to be kind to yourself so that you can continuously keep making progress, right? You don't want to be that person who breaks down a few months down the road and cannot work any further. A great example for this is actually someone you might not expect is David Goggins. David Goggins is probably the hardest worker I know. He would run like 20 miles every morning, and then he would do other physical exercise after that. And he's also a writer, he's also a speaker. He would do everything. But in his story, when he was in a podcast, I can't remember which podcast it was, but I was speaking about his story, and he was talking about how he was pushing himself so hard. At one point, his body just broke down. Like, it was like an illness where he could not even move. He knew mentally that he was fine. Like, there's no deficiency in him. There's no pain. But he just couldn't move. It almost became like he was paralyzed. He had no energy. That's because his muscles had gave up. Even after sleeping every day, having a proper diet, look at his physique, you can tell he has a proper diet. His muscles just gave up. Some internal component inside him, some organ inside him said, enough is enough, and cut his whole control of his body. I think he could not move for a few months after that, and he could not work out or do anything for the next 2 years. He had to take 2 years off. That's when he realized the importance that self-care plays in yourself. And that importance plays a role in procrastination as well. It's easy to, take it too far. Instead of procrastinating, now you're overworking yourself. That is also a position I found myself in 2020 during the pandemic, where I had so much free time. When my friends were spending their free time procrastinating, I was like overworking myself. And that took a toll on me. For David Goggins, it took several years, but for me, the signs were pretty much showing up, just in 1.5 years. And I had to, stop myself. I had low pressure, a low pressure situation in my body where, I was hallucinating during the day. I was like, my head was spinning for no apparent reason. I was sleeping, I was eating healthy, and I was exercising every day. But, I was just, hallucinating during the day. I did not know what was going on. I went to the doctor and he told me, you're just pushing yourself too hard. That's when I realized the importance of, balance and self-care. So, great points you put up here. And as I said, I'm loving this conversation. I just hope people are here listening. They're learning something and they can also apply these things in their life. And at the end of the day, we are here we can always tell you our stories and what we have done and what we have learned over the years. It's all of how it's going to impact you depends on you. If you learn something here, it's all about you going out there, applying these things into your life. And that's what's going to make a difference in your life. So, yeah, I love this conversation so far. I would love to hear from the other speakers here. Back to you, Indra.
Wow, so many gems. I want to, at this point, also give a big shout out to some of our dear friends that are supporting this space. First of all, thank you so much to Inner Practitioner for joining the space, bringing your energy to the space. We really appreciate you. Also, Masculine Mind, thank you so much for being here, for joining the space. And also, Professor Thuli, Madonacella. It is lovely. Thank you so much for sharing the space out and being here. And it's time for a quick shout out. Wow, there are so many people in this space. I'm going to do my best, and apologies for mispronunciation of all of you wonderful people and if I miss anyone. But let's go. Okay, Monica, Nishika, Absolute Savage, Rishab, Canup, Can, Rabi, Amasi, Sataya, Demoda, Tavaza, Carlos, Ryan, Kenton, Gwila, Tesham, Nibu, Terry, Reduv, Ashwan, Ferry, Ramon, Faz, Davi, Whisperer, Linky, Rosalina, Bardgala, Mrs. Michael, Shake, James, Mel, Cassie. Oh my gosh, so many people are here. Usman, Zabi, Pedro, Kelesh, Atta, Akagan, oh my gosh, Isra, Eng, Ro, Donatella, Edis, Shaka, The Crier, Randomly, Cassanthia, Mark, Access, Ramilda. Whoa, all these people. Look, I'm going to stop there because I cannot even scroll to the bottom. Thank you so much. DJ Doge is in the house. Wesley, the circles are moving. So we are so thankful for, wow, an incredible live discussion here of all of you attending the space today. We really appreciate you because without all of you, we don't have a show. So Success Mind and I really appreciate all of you, and especially all of the people that are also, hey, I also missed a dear friend also, Seth said, inspirational quotes. Thank you also for joining us. I missed you there. All these wonderful people in the space. And the chat is out of control. I love it. I'm loving this. I have tried to get to a few of these, but Success Minded and myself will definitely go back after this space because there are so many great shares in the space, so in the chat. So I do encourage everybody to head back there and check it all out and comment and share and enjoy this space. Wow, this is incredible. So getting back to some of the pieces that have been shared here, I just wanted to also say that there were some really great points that I feel like we underestimate, as in the kindness piece that you were talking about, Success Minded, being kind to ourselves, and also being realistic. Okay, so we can have all these plans and sub-plans and lists and all these things that we map out, as in with good intentions, and they need to be done and everything else. But always reflect, like, is this realistic for me? Is this time frame realistic? Am I going to do these 100 things in one day? So that's the thing, like map out your day, and still we have to still sleep, eat, breathe. I mean, we are human beings, and emotionally and spiritually, we have to be able to tap into that. I want to welcome Inner Practitioner and love your thoughts on this procrastination topic.
Hi, Indra. Hi, Success Minded. Hi, everyone. I apologize for the noises because I'm outside having lunch with my manager. I just want to share with you guys my experience and thoughts and examinations on procrastination. I've always had the issue of procrastination, so I really wanted to understand why. And I didn't read any books, nor did I do any Google. What I did was just ask myself, why? Why do I procrastinate? To now observe myself. What I found out was this. I did not procrastinate because I want to delay to do something. I procrastinated because I wanted to stay in my comfort zone longer. So for me, the reason why I procrastinate is because I want to stay in my comfort zone longer. I didn't want to face something which I think will make me uncomfortable. Since there was my own issue and I found there was a reason why, what I did was this. I started to practice doing something every day, just one thing that will make me slightly uncomfortable. For example, I may walk over and say hi to a stranger, which I normally will feel uncomfortable in doing. Just one thing each day. And then once I got slightly better, I do two things that makes me uncomfortable every day. And then after about 6 months, I kind of got that under control a little bit. I did the same thing when I need to do something, but I'm reluctant to do. I remind myself, this is a practice. This is a feeling, the uncomfortable feeling. So I just need to face it and just go ahead and do it. It's difficult. It's not easy, but I kept pushing myself step by step. It became easier. And a lot of times, the thing that I think will make me uncomfortable if I do it, it turns out it wasn't. There was actually such a relief after I faced it at the moment and just went ahead and did it. Just want to share with you guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, inner practitioner. That was golden. And I'm sure that resonated what you shared with us, with many people here listening now and who'll be listening in the replay. I think that change is something that is deeply rooted in us, as in it could be bad, or if I do this, if everything changes, there's this, as you mentioned, this good feeling, comfort. It's like winter when you're eating a soup, right? And that same comfort level of, oh, this is so cozy, this is so nice. And then, oh, well, I'm going to eat a salad in the middle of winter. No, that's not comfortable at all. But maybe that's all that was in the refrigerator to make dinner with. So these things come like these emotions that just come up within us that we don't have awareness of. And it sounds like you really dug deep in a practitioner to find what was going on. Also wanted to comment on the exercises that you're giving yourself to break out of your comfort zone are incredible, because again, we start to get into our set ways as humans, and doing something new isn't the most comfortable thing, but that's certainly when we grow the most. I mean, how incredible is that we're growing at that pace when we start stretching ourselves. And that's what I was hearing. And even when you mentioned it in a practitioner, that, oh, you're going to go over to people that you didn't know and say hi or connect with them, it was sort of in your voice still. We could all hear that was something still that you have to push yourself out to do, but you're doing it. Thank you so much for sharing. Success Minded, over to you.
Yeah. Oh, inner practitioner, thank you so much for coming up and sharing your story. And this is why, again, I repeat myself, I love these spaces where, we get to hear from other people's stories, because what inner practitioners shared was, getting, being afraid to get out of that comfort zone. And that was constituting that procrastination. Is so easy to dismiss something like that as just laziness, right? It's so easy to call someone lazy because he doesn't want to come out of his comfort zone, right? But the reasoning behind it, the cause behind it could be something much deeper, because it is hard to come out of your comfort zone. It is hard to break that cocoon that you've accustomed yourself to live in. And you cannot do it in one instant that someone tells you to do something that you're not comfortable. You cannot just do it in a snap, right? It's a process where you first learn about it, you know how it goes, and then you start doing it, and then you realize that what it was out of your comfort zone maybe it still is, but you're getting now a bit comfortable in it. It's a process and it takes a long time. And thank you so much for bringing that up, because I've faced that a lot of times in my life where people would just dismiss it as just being lazy. So loved what you said, and especially about about just the fact that you you were able to come out of that comfort zone, and you were telling yourself, it is going to be hard, right? Our subconscious is always trying to pull us into our comfort zone. If you haven't developed that mindset of understanding that getting out of that comfort zone is necessary, that we need to do the hard things to get to anywhere in life, it's almost impossible for us to get anywhere, and but our subconscious will always try to pull us back into our comfort zone. So at that moment, it is important to know what our subconscious is trying to do, and with our conscious mind, tell our body to take that action, tell our subconscious to shut up. And if you do it enough times, again, follow this process for a long time, eventually your subconscious will also start to tell you to do things. Your subconscious will also tell you to get out of the comfort zone, embrace new experiences, embrace that hardship, embrace that discomfort. And at the end of the day, that's where growth comes from. I remember, when I was a chronic procrastinator, as somebody in the chat said, they have a PhD in procrastination. I did as well, and it took a long time. It took about like a year and a half, or even 2 years, for me to break that mold and embrace that mindset that pain is good, hardship is good, discomfort is good. Our brains would love to not have the discomfort. Our brains to love living a comfortable life where there is no pain, there's only pleasure, and there is only happiness, and there's only well, all positive things. But that's not how it is. If you want to grow, you have to embrace those discomforts. And it took me a long time of embracing the discomfort day in and day out, that I was able to train my subconscious into telling me that I need to embrace that. Oh yeah, I see a practitioner having a hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, what I realized is that my mind always naturally goes to where pleasure or comfort is. It's whatever I identify as pleasure or comfort, my mind will naturally go there. So I don't try to control my mind. I try to focus on my relationship between me and my mind. And I don't want my mind to make certain decisions for me. I want to be the one who makes decision. One example I've learned is that I realize that when I see an opportunity, I just need to contact a certain person and try and make a connection with them. And if they happen to say yes, and there's the whole new world can open up because of that. But it's really uncomfortable for me just to try and DM somebody or call up or text someone for the opportunity. And because of that, I've lost a lot of opportunities to grow and expand. So that became a practice. If I see an opportunity, then the first moment that I can, I'll just go ahead and do it, regardless if they reject me or not. It doesn't matter, because if they say no, or it's not the right time for them, I'm back to where I am right now. But if they say yes, I may be in a better and newer place with better opportunities. So that became another practice too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was such a great ad. And I think that's this whole thing of this discomfort that we've been talking about is the main thing that's coming through is that for so many of us that have shared here in this discussion, this is a normal human thing to feel discomfort, to not want to always change. There can be some examples where we get very excited about change, but it's not our human nature to be really overly excited about change, new things, because there's always this risk factor. Okay, so anything new is going to be risky. It's going to feel discomfort. We don't know what the outcomes are sometimes with when we're trying something new. And so this procrastination factor, this is where it all comes into play as well. We're uncertain. We don't like to feel uncertain. Why would we want to be uncertain? It's when we can feel comfort, when we can do the thing that we already know works. Well, there are different variations and times when doing what you need to do and doing what works, that's something, okay, so in the workplace, that might be required because they're expecting the same thing from you, or you're expecting the same thing from yourself doing a particular task. But there are opportunities that we can actually stretch ourselves, and there's always a risk factor. When I think about risk, I think about somebody like Elon Musk, who is taking risks with his rocket ship that didn't work last time, but he's going back to the drawing board to do it again. So each time there's a level of discomfort with a new product, launching something new like a rocket, I would imagine there is a level of uncertainty of risk. And that's the thing that we have to keep overcoming and encouraging ourselves to overcome the procrastination, if there is any, in that area, because great things can happen from moving forward. So many great points there. Over to you, Success Minded.
Yeah, you mentioned the risk factor, and a good way to see it is that the risk factor, the fear of taking risks, it comes from the fact that when we were, nomadic, when human beings lived in the forest, right? And I keep repeating myself. If you heard the story before, pretty sorry, but I'm just trying to tell it to people who haven't maybe heard it before. When human beings who lived in the forest, taking risks meant going into the forest, going to the dark, and exploring things. And that meant there might be some wild animals in the jungle who might be, who might just be waiting to eat you, right? That's where the risk factor comes in. The dark, we are afraid of the dark. And going to the dark had been a risk for us for a long time because of, any predator that might be waiting for us there. And, prehistorically, taking risks also came with a lot of, actual, physical harm. But today, we live in civilized societies where you don't need to fear the dark anymore. You don't need to, fear most things. What's the worst that could happen? People can say things to you. If they harm you, that's against the law. Most people won't break the law, right? Most people won't harm you. That's not to say that you need to be fully careless and, go to the wrong side of the street at the wrong time. I'm not saying that. But, if you take these sensible risks, the worst that could ever happen to is someone might say something bad to you. That's the worst that could happen. You might feel like you've been humiliated sometimes. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. If you keep trying again and again and again, eventually it will come to fruition. And in that sense, taking risk in today's circumstance means taking that opportunity to grow. So just something I wanted to add in there, just for, putting that risk into perspective. Sometimes, most of the times in our present society, taking risk is not a bad thing. The worst that could happen is just something inconsequential. So back to you, Indra.
Yeah, great points wrapping that up on the risk piece. Thank you so much. I want to touch base with Stephen. Did you have any thoughts to add or chime in? Go because we've been, wow, on quite a journey with this topic.
Yeah, so I'll be brief. The quote, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear," came from a book called Conversations with God. Neil, and I looked it up because it was driving me crazy who said that. But everything you want is on the other side of fear. And in that book, he wrote, what you want is on the other side of fear. That is the only place it can be. You want love, you'll have to go through fear. If you want peace, you'll have to go through fear. If you want joy, you'll have to go through fear. There is no other way. And the quote, I'm going to continue with what I looked up. The quote is a reminder that in order to achieve our goals, we must be willing to face our fears. Fear is a natural emotion that can hold us back from taking risks and pursuing our dreams. However, if we can overcome our fears, we will find that the rewards on the other side are well worth it. And that's an excerpt from Conversations with God, in that everything we want is on the other side of fear. The approach of inner practitioner taking on two things that make him discomfortable or uncomfortable every day is a brilliant approach to overcoming that fear. I salute you, sir.
Thank you. What a fabulous share. Really appreciate that, Stephen, you doing the research on that and looking up the details. Okay, let's head over to Roseanne. Love you to share some more thoughts if you've got any on more of these things that we've been talking about in the space.
Yeah, you guys touched on so much, Stephen. That was so beautiful, by the way. I love that quote. And it really ties everything together, what we were saying this whole space. Inner practitioner, he spoke about fear, and you need that reflection. He sat and he reflected on it and was wondering why that was happening. And then there's that other piece to it, which is the fear, figuring out what that fear is, and then taking action. And all those things are so important. And there are reasons that we fear things, and sometimes it's ego. We want to be perfect. We are afraid of getting hurt. We're afraid, like Success Minded said, of so many different factors. But when you take that chance and you overcome that fear, it's amazing what it could do, just like Inner Practitioner's story. And a lot of the things that we want are on the other side of fear, but you need the action. You need to reflect. You need to know why you're doing those things. And it wraps up all together for you, and you're able to make those changes. So I really do love Inner Practitioner's story and everything else, because it really ties in together with the entire space.
Beautifully said, Roseanne. Thank you. Really nicely said. Let's move around to inner practitioner. Do you have any last thoughts? Because we're going to start to wrap up the space, and that was a really nice wrap up from Roseanne. Love your thoughts, inner practitioner.
Yes, I want to share one more thing, but this may be a little bit out there. This is my actual direct experience regarding fear. This happened maybe 12 years ago. I was somewhere with one manipulator and a narcissist, and they were doing their usual thing on me. In addition, I was in another country. I was really afraid of my teacher because I know he can read my mind. He knows all my ego moves and all that. Everything got added up so badly. I was so afraid of everything. And at that moment, I finally snapped. And what I did was that I screamed from within me and I said, no more. And then at that moment, I heard a cracking sound from within. And then silence. I didn't know what had happened. Then I went back to see my teacher. And when he saw me, he just smiled. He said, "Oh, you have lost your feeling of fears. Now you can start to learn." I still didn't know what that meant. But then my life started to change. It's like I live in a different world. I used to be so afraid of heights. And then I would go to a very tall building. I stand by the balcony and look down. My body still has a reaction of the tingling sensation and sweating, but I felt nothing inside. There was no usual fear. Then what I realized was somehow I accidentally broke the feeling of fear. Fear, it actually happens in two phases. Like, for example, if I'm driving really quickly, I see a car in front of me that suddenly stops, and I step on my brake. When that happens, there's a sense of fear from within that comes out. And then my mind replaces it. And then it produces a feeling of fear. So most of the time what we're experiencing, the actual fear happens so quickly. What we're feeling is really just the feeling of fear. And the feeling of fear comes and goes. And by the time we experience it, we are reacting from the feelings of fear. So once I saw that clearly, and I did so many tests and experiments, what used to make me so afraid, then that's what I realized. Fear is really a paper tiger, but it's just so real, and we just keep reacting to it. In addition, when we follow the reaction to the feeling of fear, that is also part of the pattern of fear within. It keeps us in that loop, in that emotional structure. And so we have no control of it. In addition, I've observed many people that a lot of us, especially my family, a lot of their decisions are based upon fear. They're so afraid something will happen, and before it happens, they try to make sure they're okay with it. But we don't really know if that thing's going to happen or not. The point is that a lot of decisions are made by fear, not from the heart nor awareness. And used to control me so much because of that. This is what I want to share with you. Thank you.
That was really powerful, that share. And thank you, Inner Practitioner, for sharing with us these personal stories, because it's a personal experience. And we really treasure that you feel comfortable to share in the Positivity Vibe Tribe. Thank you so much. And this example that you gave us of your experience of fear, well, it's the reason why I feel that this is so powerful, because this fear piece is behind so many things for us in our life, and especially procrastination. This fear of what could happen, the fear of will something change, the fear of everything. Will I change? How will I be? How will I react? I mean, this fear piece is also the part of what really resonated with me about your experience was that so much is out of our control. So in our life, we like to do the things that we can control, that we can predict, that we know exactly what's going to happen because we have done this before, many, many times before. So when there is that piece of fear, especially when we're stretching ourselves, when we're doing something new, particularly in relation to procrastination, we're delaying things because of that unknown entity, that not knowing, the fear that just overwhelms us. It's something that look, we're all going to experience this fear, this, what are we afraid of? What's the worst piece of occurrence that could happen? What would be the worst case scenario? And it's almost like we have to reverse engineer this whole thing as well. Well, if this is the worst that could happen, then it's worth it to me. You know, being realistic, particularly when we reverse engineer this to procrastination, there could be a lot of things that could happen if we don't take action. Even if you think about it, if we don't do our work taking action, if we continue to procrastinate, well, what could happen there? If we don't operate on a normal basis with our family, if we don't make food, or if we don't eat just the basics, we're procrastinating about things, it can start to lead to other things. So it was such a powerful share about the fear. And fear is something that nobody in the space is not going to fear something. So we all relate to that at the deepest levels. Inner practitioner, back over to you.
Thank you. If you really think about it, bravery does not belong to the fearless one. Bravery belongs to the one with fears, but he or she faced it and conquered it. Yeah, it's by facing it and conquering it, then new opportunity happens. There's another type of thinking. The universe is here to make us more conscious, not more comfortable. So if we actually procrastinate something, we're actually delaying the future lessons and evolution of our own timeline. So the more we face that and actually do it, the faster we go through our evolution. Because it's not just this version of yourself right now. You want to think about your future version. How do you actually get there, and how fast do you get there, step by step? And the more we procrastinate, the slower we get to the future, more evolved version. But of course, this is a personal choice. There's no right or wrong. Thank you.
That was a fantastic point. And the reason, inner practitioner, is because that point just had so much resonance. And I know it's not just with me, it's with everybody in this space, because we're all here because we are into self-improvement, self-growth. We all have a growth mindset. We're all building, we're all wanting more information. We're wanting to develop this piece of ourselves. We're wanting to move forward. And the key word that you used was to evolve, to move forward. The quicker we can evolve. Well, that's what this search of information, of this inner journey for ourselves is all about, is to get to that point that we can overcome the fear in order to move forward, in order to grow. So what a wonderful share that was. Thank you so much for just nailing that point. Success Minded, over to you.
Yeah, great points there, inner practitioner, and it's always great to have you here. It's always great to hear your stories and the points that you bring in. And I also believe that tackling fear, especially in terms of procrastination, is one of the ways to do it, and one of the ways I've done it, is actually to embrace a professional mindset. What I mean by that, let's say you're in the gym, okay? You lift weights in the gym, okay? If you embrace the mindset of a common person, okay? You go in there, I'm not a lifter, I don't lift weights, what am I doing here? You're gonna have that fear of lifting that first weight, okay? Even if you're a seasoned veteran, you get to a point, of lifting, you're gonna have that fear or that procrastination of willing to lift. But if you go in there with the mindset, I'm a professional bodybuilder, I'm a professional weightlifter, then it becomes a part of your personality. This is who you are. Then it's not just about fear. It's just not about tackling fear. It's also about tackling procrastination, where if it's a part of who you are, you don't feel like you're not doing it. If you're procrastinating about making dinner today, okay, just think of yourself as a chef, as a cook, as a professional cook. See what happens there. You're motivated to prepare your dinner today. You're actually at that moment you're motivated to create a new dish. You're motivated to be creative about what you cook, and who knows, you might cook something that's very beautiful, very very delicious, very very healthy, right? It all starts with that professional mindset of seeing yourself as a professional, right? If you have to, like, if you're preparing for a, let's say, a law exam, okay, think of yourself as a lawyer right now, as a professional lawyer. And as a professional lawyer, you need to do a lot of research, you need to do a lot of reading, you need to find a lot of things, and use that mindset to actually go through your law textbooks, go through those law case studies that you have to study to become a lawyer. I'm not, again, I might be missing something here. I haven't studied law. I haven't talked to anyone who has, but I assume the process is something similar. But if you embrace that mindset that you are a professional, it trains your subconscious into believing that this is who you are and this is what you should do. Then the question of procrastination doesn't even come up. You just do it because you do it because you do it, right? That's what lawyers do. That's what chefs do. That's what bodybuilders do. You have that professional mindset, everything about procrastination goes away. So if you want a way to eliminate procrastination, right? A hack sort of, try this one. Seeing yourself as a professional right now, right? In whatever you do, see yourself as a professional, and then it'll force you to put in 100% into it. Whereas in procrastination, you are basically giving yourself in negative percentages. When you think of yourself as a professional, you might even be giving in 200% of yourself into what you're doing. So that's something just I wanted to add, and that's something you can apply to your own life and see a difference right now. This is a hack. This is not a tip. It's just a hack that has helped me go forward in my weight training, right? It can also go a wrong way, where I was thinking of myself as a bodybuilder too much and focusing on too many different details. But that's a discussion for a later time. That's a thing that will come up very late. Then we'll have that. If you have that problem, reach out to me and maybe I can help you with my journey. But as of now, try this hack. Try this tip that I'm sharing with you. And I guarantee you, this will, motivate you to get out of this procrastination phase and get into that professional phase. So back over to you, Indra, or Roseanne, if you want to speak up.
Oh, hey, that was an incredible hack. And it reminded me of so many times, like with Bob Proctor, he would say, and I remember even as a teenager learning, about these mindsets, because what you're talking about is taking control of your mindset, of setting your mindset, deciding, right? And I remember when I was dancing, and I've always been a dancer and doing ballet and things, and I was terrified to head out onto stage. And I was like 18 and I was just, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I remembered watching a video of this Russian dance company. I think it was the Bolshoi Ballet, maybe it was that one. And the main dancer, the way she just elevated herself onto her toes, and it just flowed so beautifully. And so I focused on that memory and I took that into my performance. And I almost thought, okay, well, I'm a professional ballet dancer, even though I wasn't. Well, it was high school. I was thinking, no, it must have been 17-ish. Yeah, I think it was a little bit young. It was 16, 17-ish. And so I brought that energy into exactly my being in order to psych myself up, to bring that energy in order. So there was a couple of moments I might not have stepped out onto stage and being the centerpiece. There's a lot of pressure there, but I did something similar. And so I have done that hack. And I was remembering, I think that was one of the first times that I stumbled upon it, just taking that embodiment of, I'm a professional, I can do this. And there is so much that comes down to our mindset. And so this hack is incredible, because if you can convince yourself that you can do it, it's mind over matter. Okay, that's what it is. Most of the time, we can do incredible things, but we talk ourselves out of it. I mean, we talk ourselves out of the whole thing. It's this mindset of, I can't do it, self-doubt. So we actually have the ability to do great things, but we talk ourselves out of it. So, wow, I love this. I love this trail of conversation. Roseanne, love to hear your thoughts on this piece.
I love that hack so much. And Indra, when you were speaking, well, when both of you guys were speaking, two words that you guys kept repeating is I am. And Indra, I know that you're into Bob Proctor a lot. So this reminds me so much of affirmations and self-talk, because with affirmations, it really shifts your mindset to I am, and whatever that is that comes after. So were you, it might have been a dancer, or it might be weight training, but envisioning yourself, even if it's just in the moment of being that dancer, being that weight trainer, it shifts your mindset. And it's such a great tool to use in order to get to that, because sometimes it's difficult for us to automatically have that kind of imagination. Not everybody has that. So that's a tool to use, that even if you're writing it, or you're looking at yourself in the mirror, or you're just standing there and about to lift that weight, when you're saying I am, it really does help. I know for myself, I had a difficult time with yoga and with balance. And a lot of times it's easy to say that self-talk, oh, I'm really terrible at this, I'm not balanced at all. But when you start saying things like, I am balanced, and you really start truly believing that, it really does make the difference. So just you guys saying I am that entire time really brought this, it reminded me of that, especially with Bob Proctor.
100%. That's exactly what I was thinking of, Roseanne. The I am principle and affirmation, how powerful it is. I am. I mean, we underestimate this. We underestimate the power of ourselves, of our thought process. I mean, if we never had self-doubt that crept in, just imagine where we would be. Just imagine our full potential. Because we're able to just, I am going to do this. I'm going to slay this. I'm going to have a great space. I'm going to have a great life. I'm going to have a great day. I mean, the I am principle as a basis for everything is really the most powerful thing that we can do for ourselves in this whole concept. Warm welcome, Charity. Love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yes, I loving the space. I hope to see very much more of them. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you and everyone in the room, and I hope everybody's having a blessed day. But yes, the I am, the power of positivity is tremendous. Recently I've gotten to where I have this new little mindset, and I'm not sure where I picked it up. I overheard it in either a YouTube video or in a space, but somebody had said, rather than when we look at things that we have to tackle that we don't want to, or that mindset of, oh, I have to go to work or I have to do the dishes, change that word have and make it get. I get to go to work. I get to do the dishes. It's that power of positivity. It's fake it till you make it if you have to, but eventually that having to, it's not such a chore anymore. It's a blessing. Everything is a blessing. And when you start looking at things in the positive, your whole world changes. I just wanted to add that little tidbit to everybody. Thanks.
That was so fantastic, Charity. Loved your energy. Thank you so much for appreciating the space and for adding that piece of just joy because it brings everything back to this mindset piece and how we underestimate our mindset on so many different things during our day. I mean, if we realized that we really are these masterful beings being able to create the experience, the life that we want, just with our mindset alone, I mean, that's half the battle, truly, to be able to just pinpoint that one thing, which is our mindset. And so many of these discussions here, these incredible, powerful discussions, have been around this piece of mindset. And we're all in this space here because it's full of growth. We're here to improve, to grow, to evolve, to share, to learn from each other. So you sharing that, just changing your perspective, as in I get to do things, as in a blessing, is a huge shift in mindset. And we can all take that example into our day for the rest of our day. I mean, here we are. For some of us, it's depending where you are in the world. In the US, you still have the rest of your day, and you could start afresh tomorrow morning by bringing some of these ideas as concepts, trying them for yourself. Experiment. Success Minded, over to you on some thoughts.
Yeah, Charity, thank you so much for coming up and sharing your thoughts. And I love the fact that you're loving the space. And if you're in the audience listening to this right now and also enjoying the space, please do us a favor, subscribe to the Spaces notification. If you want to know how to do that, there's a tweet up in the nest. We have prepared a GIF showing you the entire process, how you set notifications for Spaces. So, if you want to not miss spaces like these, because we do these 2 spaces a week, sometimes more. If you don't want to miss spaces like this information, you might want to hit that space notification so that you get notified every time we host a space. So, coming back to the topic at hand, Charity, I love what you shared here. I love the enthusiasm you had in your voice, and I love the information you brought in. And you're right. It's all about the mindset, right? It's all about how we perceive things that change how we approach them. At the end of the day, overcoming procrastination is all about approaching things, right? It's not about getting away from those things. That's procrastination. Running away, that's procrastination. But if you just approach it, even mentally, at first, eventually, if you put in enough mental effort into it, you're eventually going to take that first step, which is then going to result eventually into you finishing the task. But, it's all about taking that first approach. And it again, as you said, starts with changing the perspective on it. And I love what you said, coming back to, the I am statement. It's all about, when you are, you just have to do it. It's just part of you. And you shared about, changing I have to I get to. I love that. That's what I was thinking about when I said earlier. I get to that. That's such a powerful thing, because once you embrace that mindset, I get to do something. That's gratitude. In that case, it becomes less of it. The procrastination point becomes irrelevant, because in that case, it's out of the question. Is you get to do something. It's an opportunity. Why won't you do it? Right? If you get an opportunity to be the president of the United States, you don't procrastinate in that and don't do it, because that's an opportunity. That's gratitude. That is an opportunity of a lifetime. But if you start seeing those daily things, right, as changing it from I have to I get to, that gratitude piece, that is fantastic. Now, I love that, and thank you so much for bringing that up into the space today. Again, if you want to come up, contribute to the conversation, or if you want to ask some questions, we have some great people here. We have Indra, we have me, and we also have Roseanne. Feel free to come up with any questions you have and anything you want to add to the conversation. We would love to hear with you. And this conversation is going amazing so far. I'm loving it. So yeah, back to you, Indra.
Thank you so much, Success Minded. It always adds so many new points and so much value. We have a new speaker. I'd love to invite Brian. Love to hear your thoughts on procrastination or anything that you've just heard recently in the space.
Hi, Indra. Hello, everyone. So, my thoughts about procrastination are that for me, I usually get things done when they need to get done. Sometimes it's just mindset. Sometimes it's the feeling that I will feel afterwards once it's completed. Sometimes it's also sort of blocking time to be away from my phone or something. That way I don't get distracted or know what I'm going to do if I have a task that requires my phone or computer. And that's how I can get things done. And, it's important for everybody with dealing with procrastination, but it can especially be important for somebody with autism like myself to know what needs to be done or to have guidance about what needs to be done. So that's just my perspective on things. I've only been here for a little bit, but and I'm a little inconsistent with coming to the spaces that Indra hosts because of scheduling on my end. But I always enjoy the spaces, and I've enjoyed Indra from the moment that I met her on Wisdom, and love hearing you on Twitter, and love also seeing you on other platforms. So great to see everyone, and I hope that I could provide value for everyone listening. Much love to everyone.
Thank you so much, Brian, for sharing in this discussion and for adding so much value. And really appreciate that you mentioned that you support me on the other platforms. As everybody knows, I have a YouTube show, and I so appreciate support for my YouTube channel. Let's check in with Success Minded. Back over to you.
Yeah, Brian, thank you so much for coming up and sharing your side of the story. Overcoming procrastination in terms of autism, I don't think is talked anywhere. I haven't seen it talked anywhere. So, you coming up here and sharing your side of the story where, if someone here in the audience is listening, or someone from the replay is listening who has a similar condition to you, I think they're going to relate and they're going to learn from what you've been sharing. And also, I want to ask you something. You mentioned about procrastination in terms of autism, where it's hard for you to focus on things, from what I understand. Um, so if I understand correctly, if you like focus on something, uh, do you give up? As in, like, I've heard that autistic people, is hard for them to go from one thing to another. But if you do get to something, you just go through. Is that correct, Brian?
Well, I hope I'm understanding your question well. So I am able to go from one task to another. Um, so, I mean, if the directions are concrete enough for me to follow, then yes, I could definitely go from one task to another. So that is something that I am able to do. I hope that answered your question. If not, then just please clarify it for me further.
Yeah. That probably answers my question. I hope I'm not like offending you in any way, because I haven't like autism here in India isn't very talked about, and I haven't like had friends or had family members who I get to talk with about these issues. And I have been always curious about how life is for you. And really sorry if it did offend you, or if it did offend anyone in the audience. I'm just here, as a innocent curiosity. That's what I'm asking it from. So with that said, I think it's time for us to end. It's 1:47 a.m. in India. And if I don't know about you, but I need to go to sleep. Yeah, I stayed up pretty late last night, and I did not get a lot of sleep today. So I need to go to sleep really quick. I think it's time to end the space here. I appreciate everyone coming here. This has been the biggest positivity Five Tribe space ever. We've had, I think, 280 people at our peak. We've never had so many people, concurrent listeners at once. And I love you guys with the deepest parts of my heart. I love that every one of you showed up and showed support for this topic. We try to bring topics like these each week, at least 2 times a week, but sometimes we also do bonus spaces. So look out for those. Wednesdays, last Wednesday we had a good response. This Wednesday we had a good response. We're actually trying to mix and match days to see which days are most comfortable for you to come and listen to. And for now, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, American. That's when we host our spaces. It's 11:30 p.m. in India for me. And if you want to hear more from us, join us at Wednesday 2 p.m. And this week we are going to try Friday next. We usually do Thursdays, but we realize that Thursdays may not be the best days for people, because we do hear complaints from people that it's a wrong day, wrong timing. But we're going to do the next Positivity Five Tribe space on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 p.m. Indian time. And you can translate that to your time zone, wherever you live in. And yeah, we would love to have you there. If you have joined in late in this space today, I would highly appreciate that you go back and listen to the replay. It does help out a lot as well, because we love the numbers, and when you just listen to the numbers, we get the we listen to the replay, we get numbers, and as creators, that's our validation, right? That's our dopamine for the day. But if you have missed anything, if you have missed any part of this discussion, you joined in late, or you had to go somewhere and you came back, I would highly appreciate you listen to the replay. I would also recommend you listen to the replay on a desktop, because on mobiles, Android phones, there's a glitch going on where you can't listen to the spaces any longer than, I think, 20 minutes or something, and it resets back to 0, which is strange. I don't know why that happens, but on Android phones, on my phone, it's a pretty decent phone, pretty expensive phone, and it does that for some reason. I don't know about iPhones, but on desktop, on the computer, the experience has been flawless. I would also recommend you listen to 1.5x speed, because sometimes in live conversations like these, we do tend to speak a bit slower because we're also live thinking. And that, can be a bit of a problem for some people listening, especially a replay. So if you listen to 1.5x, that's more like a podcast-like scenario, and you're going to enjoy it a bit more. So I would highly recommend that. And again, lastly, I would like to thank everybody for coming here, taking the time off during the day to listen to this. I hope you got to learn something, and I hope you can apply this in your real life and have results. So with that, thank you so much for coming, and I'm shifting over the mic to Indra.
Hey, a wonderful wrap up for the space, Success Minded. And yes, this is the biggest ever space that we've had, at coming in at 288 people all at once in one single moment. So blessings and so much gratitude to everybody in this community. And we really feel like Wednesday around 11 p.m., 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is a really great time on Wednesdays. But we're excited that we're going to try this Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and see how you like that time. And of course, the topic that we are going to be talking about is the art of letting go. So many things in life we often hold on to tightly, and it's difficult for us to let go. So this is going to be a space that we are truly excited to jump into the conversation. We really appreciate this community. Thank you for all the wonderful people. I wish I could shout out every single face. We really appreciate your support, the listeners, the people who have also jumped into the chat and said hello and shared their comments. We will definitely be going back in there and responding to everybody. Thank you to the speakers that came up. We really appreciate you all for supporting this space. And there's been many people that have been here since the beginning. I want to give a big shout out to Professor Thuli Mendocella. You have been here since the beginning, and thank you so much for sharing out this space. Thank you to our friend, Inner Practitioner. One of our co-hosts is still here, Stephen. Our partners, Bunsen and Beaker, are in the house. Yay. Roseanne, Charity, and also Masculine Mind has been here quite a bit today. And of course, our dear friend Seth said, inspirational quotes. Make sure that you're connected to these heavy hitters. And of course, you all should be following Success Minded, because he has incredible content, and I am a huge fan, as you all know. So until Friday, we are sending you off with these good vibes, and we are sending every single one of you love, light, and blessings.